I'm Anne Marie Miller, Vice President of Development here at the museum. Thank you to everybody for making the time to come join us this morning. And now we welcome Sean Sahlberger, Fire Chief, City of Peoria.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you to Peoria Firefighters Local 50, our honor guard, for the presentation of the colors. Thank you to John Morris and the Peoria Riverfront Museum for today's coordination. Additionally, Andrew Rand, CEO of AMT, former Secretary Ray LaHood, and former Chief of Staff Andy Card for playing an integral role for not just this year, but leading into the 25th anniversary next year. Today, our country carries a weight of remembrance. Nearly 3,000 lives were lost 24 years ago on an attack on our country. Today, we honor their memory. We honor them by acknowledging, remembering, and we will never forget. We remember the courage and the acts of heroism from not only our firefighters and police officers, paramedics, but our very own citizens who ran towards the danger to save lives. And we will never forget. Thank you for all of your time today. And everyone, please take a moment on 9/11 to reflect. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And now Jesse Church will be playing the trumpet. Please welcome Todd Baker, Chairman of the Board of Directors at the Peoria Riverfront Museum.
Good morning. Thank you, Anne Marie. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Peoria Riverfront Museum, thank you all for being here today. I want to especially acknowledge Chief Sahlberger and the members of Local 50 who are here today with us out here, who make a difference every day for us. The staff of Advanced Medical Transport who is out here, who I get to work with every day. Thank you for being here. The Local 50 Honor Guard, Peoria Fire Local 50 Honor Guard. Imagine what pride I have today as one of those members is my brother. So thank you folks for being here today. The Chans, thank you for being here on what I'm sure is a difficult day, but a day of remembrance. I need to thank Bielfeldt Foundation and Sid Ruckriegel and Andrew Rand for their support today. And I never stand up without mentioning the staff, the outstanding staff of the Peoria Riverfront Museum. Please raise your hand. I'd like a round of applause for those folks. That's our staff that makes this possible. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Todd. And now, John Morris, President and CEO of the Peoria Riverfront Museum.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne Marie. 9/11. Here in the City of Gratitude, we remember those we lost on this day. We remember their families. We remember the first responders. We remember those who serve the cause of liberty to this day. There is a price of liberty paid 24 years ago at this very hour in New York, in Washington, in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Today especially, we remember our own native son, Charles Chip Chan, graduate of Richwoods High School and University of Illinois, at the top of the world, the 105th floor of the North Tower that day. And we are honored, ladies and gentlemen, by his family's presence today with us. God bless you. Today, as the director of the Peoria Riverfront Museum, a proud role I played for 8 years, I have an announcement to make about how we in Peoria will remember. And this is an exciting announcement because it speaks to the values of who we are in Greater Peoria. And this announcement is that we here at this only multidisciplinary museum of its kind in the nation have worked in collaboration with the National 9/11 Memorial and Museum in New York, who at this very hour is gathering and remembering all of the victims of 9/11. And we will bring to Peoria next year on the 25th anniversary of Remembrance of 9/11, the first full curated, organized exhibition from the collection of the 9/11 Museum in New York to ever be organized at a museum in the United States out of New York. And that is a great responsibility our curators have taken on to bring tremendous artifacts that tell the stories of real lives. Among those artifacts will be artifacts of remembrance donated by the Chan family that belong to Chip Chan and that help us remember him. And one of those artifacts, and incidentally, the exhibition will be entitled "We Remember Stories from the National Museum." There's our beloved native son, Chip Chan. So here to tell us about this exhibition and what will be in it a year from now as we open it here in Peoria, I'd like to welcome our chief curator, as well as our Art Bridges fellow, who has worked hand in hand with the staff of the 9/11 Museum to give us an idea of what we will bring to Peoria in remembrance a year from now as we make this important, really national level announcement in the presence of a man who we'll be hearing from in a few moments, who is our special advisor for the 9/11 activities, Andy Card, who was White House Chief of Staff to President Bush and who is best, of course, remembered by that famous photograph of him in that classroom in Sarasota whispering those words to the president. We'll hear from Andy in a few minutes, but right now, help me bring forward the chief curator and our Art Bridges fellow, Bill Conger and Megan Wynn, to tell us about this exhibition.
Thank you, John. Thank you for being here. I'm really humbled today to be able to talk about this exhibition. And I've never been more proud of the Peoria Riverfront Museum and what our team has been able to do and what we're bringing to you. In 2021, President and CEO John Morris and I went to New York and visited the 9/11 Memorial and Museum for the first time. Met with their president, Elizabeth Hillman, their chief curator, Jan Ramirez, who is the only chief curator the museum has ever had. She has, by herself, stewarded an amazing collection of objects, stories, emotional moments that the museum presents and tells every day. When we visited the second time, or maybe the third time, we began asking if we could tell some of their stories and tie it to our region and tie it to our own story, the Chans. They were so interested, so excited about that they worked with us, opened their vaults, let us see the objects, talk to people who were first responders, people who were at the scene, and allowed us to create an exhibition unlike no other, with them, not through them, but with them. And we're very proud of that. And I have with me our Art Bridges fellow, Megan Wynn, who is really the coordinator of all things 9/11 and America 250. As we look at 2026, I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about what's coming. Megan.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, everyone, for being here and your time today. As Bill mentioned, we've been working with the museum to assemble these objects together for the very first time. Many objects that have never been exhibited since being removed from the site of impact. Our exhibition features stories on the events of 9/11 and captures the extraordinary acts of compassion demonstrated by first responders, community leaders, and ordinary citizens around the country. One of these stories is former New York fireman Kevin Shea, who responded that day despite being off duty. Mr. Shea was preparing to assist civilians when he was blown from the South Tower during its collapse. Miraculously, he was spotted by a photographer and pulled from the rubble just half an hour before the North Tower fell. As the only survivor from Ladder 35, Upper West Side, Manhattan, Mr. Shea has dedicated his life to honoring his fallen brothers in service of others. On the 25th anniversary next year, we will be the first museum to display the full bunker gear that he was wearing when he was discovered. We are so fortunate to have his blessing to share his remarkable story. Other items include equipment used by first responders and objects of religious significance. A few memorial quilts from their permanent collection will also be on display with our newly accessioned quilt in memory of the late Charles Chip Chan. Chip was an ambitious young professional and graduate of Richwoods High School in UI Urbana-Champaign. Chip was working in Cantor Fitzgerald's offices on the 105th floor of the World Trade Center at the time of the attacks. He was among the 658 Cantor Fitzgerald employees who perished that day. Chip is remembered by his family as a caring brother and son who loved the Fighting Illini. This memorial quilt was produced by former faculty and students of Richwoods High School and was presented at the one-year anniversary event held at O'Brien Stadium. Thank you to his parents, John and Julie, for allowing us to honor Chip and all the loved ones we lost that day. I'll close with the largest item to be slated for the exhibit, which is a 19 by 6 feet piece of warped steel recovered from Ground Zero. Coined the alligator steel for its bent shape, it weighs over 4,000 pounds, including cutouts of crosses which create its teeth-like effect. We are so fortunate to have this opportunity to collaborate with the esteemed National September 11th Memorial and Museum, whose mission it is to remember and honor all the individuals killed in the horrific attacks on September 11th and on February 16th, 1993, as well as all of those who risked their lives to save others in the aftermath. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Megan. I'm very proud of us in Central Illinois for the values we have to remember. We have with us today the two teachers who coordinated the quilt that was given to Chip Chan on this day, on the first anniversary. And if you would both just stand so we can recognize the quilt coordinators. Sheila Snar, the leader of the effort. Thank you so much, ladies, for being here. So it's now my privilege to acknowledge and bring forward the chair of the advisory council that we have established to get ready for next year's 9/11 ceremonies, working with the Peoria Fire Department, and also the representative of a major sponsor of this exhibition, AMT, as well as the president of the Bielefeld Foundation, who has just made a major commitment, one of the largest of its kind, to support us in these efforts. So please help me welcome to the lectern Andrew Rand from AMT and Bob Gates from the Bielefeld Foundation.
Thank you, John.
Thank you to you and Chairman Baker of the Peoria Riverfront Museum for making 9/11 matter again to all of us. It was a cowardly attack on our country that robbed the life of some 3,000 innocents 24 years ago today. And I think it's easy to let history trek along with days etched in our American calendar forever and pay special attention to a day like 9/11. But I appreciate the fact that the Peoria Riverfront Museum's leadership is making this part of their annual calendar for all the obvious reasons we feel solemnity on a day like this. If you're sitting seated in the gallery up front, I ask you to please stand with me for a moment and look around the room and cast your eyes on the obvious first responders. They're in uniform, and there are others who are not. And let's please give them a round of applause for the kind of heroism they take to work with them every day, knowing the dangers. You people are among the best of the best in our country, and I want to thank you and thank you to the audience for helping me do that. Mr. Gates.
Good morning. My name is Bob Gates, and luckily and proudly, as the chairman of the Biefeld Foundation, are with you today. And I prepared my remarks last night and promptly threw them out this morning, so bear with me for just a second. The Biefeld Foundation's longest partnership in philanthropy is with the PRM and its predecessor, Lakeview Museum. It's a 40-year history. We continue to be very proud to invest in this marvelous institution that's really becoming our community's front porch. I would encourage you, because of our connection with the museum, I would encourage you to look up a little bit about Cantor Fitzgerald, of course, where your son worked. Early in the Lakeview's era, the Cantor Fitzgerald art collection had a series of Rodins that was home at Cantor Fitzgerald in New York. In the late 80s, Cantor Fitzgerald, through a connection with Gary Biefeld, gifted one of the pieces of art from its collection to the Peoria, or to then Lakeview, and now it resides in a home here at the Peoria Riverfront Museum. Due to the events of 9/11, that collection is no longer. We have a piece of that collection in our collection here at PRM that's curated and cared for by John and Bill. Will be a part of the 9/11 story, and it provides a direct connection to our relationships to New York, but also a direct connection to your son. We are very thrilled to be a partner with PRM and honored to be a partner on this exhibit. Thank you. I also come to this podium, and this is where I go off script for a second, as the son of a preacher, a grandson of a preacher, a son of a police officer, a nephew of a chief of police. My sister's a Marine. On 9/11, my mom, I was telling Reverend Card this, hustled out to New York City and started ministering there just steps away from Ground Zero. In a room, proving for a moment that a church is wherever you need it to be. Reverend Card was doing the same thing at her congregation on that day, while simultaneously wondering where her husband might be in the world, caring for her flock while he was caring for our country. There's that saying that maybe you don't want to meet your heroes. I think that's a false saying when we consider the good work of both Andy Card and Reverend Card on that day. And I'm honored to be, as the chairman of the Biefeld Foundation, to have met you both, and grateful for the museum for putting this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. We're deeply honored to have on this day one of the most prominent personalities associated with the events of 9/11 the Chief of Staff to then President George W. Bush, and to introduce him, and the person who helped bring him here is a great friend to all of us and the chairman of our President's Advisory Council, the Honorable Secretary Ray LaHood. Please help me welcome Secretary LaHood.
Thanks, John. Thank you. I don't know about all of you, but this is, in a way, a very sad day. I was in Washington on 9/11. I was walking into the Capitol, and as a member of Congress, I was going to preside over the House, and Capitol Hill police were shooing us out of the Capitol, saying there was a plane on its way. I saw the black plume of smoke as I stood on the east side of the Capitol after the plane hit the Pentagon. And a day or two later, I wanted to see if there was anyone from my district that I represented who was in New York, in the Twin Towers, and discovered that Chip was there. I called his family and left a message of condolence. I had a flag flown over the Capitol in honor of Chip and sent it to them. And this morning, the Chans told me that was part of what they'll be donating as part of the exhibit for the museum. I'm really sad that someone like Chip was not able to survive, but I'm delighted that his family is now going to share with us some of his most treasured possessions, including the flag that was flown over the Capitol. Thank you for doing that. When I called Andy Card to see if he would come to Peoria to help us commemorate the 24th anniversary, his immediate answer was yes. I served in Congress while President Bush served in the White House for 8 years. I served in Congress all of those 8 years. I became friends with Andy. He's a dear friend. His wonderful wife, Kathleen, is with us. She's a minister and will be offering some thoughts, prayerful thoughts, a little bit later. For them to spend an entire day in Peoria is quite extraordinary. And there's nobody closer to the Bush family than Andy Card. He served in President George Herbert Walker Bush's administration. He was Chief of Staff to George W. Bush. He served as Secretary of Transportation for a brief time. Just an extraordinary public servant. To have him and Kathleen in Peoria this morning to help us celebrate the 24th anniversary of 9/11 is a great, great honor. Andy, thank you so much for being here. Please help you all give a great welcome to Andy Card.
Thank you very much, Ray. The Chan family, your presence here today and the memory of your son is really the obligation that we must meet to remember every single year. First of all, I'm truly honored to be here. The people of Peoria have just been proven to be the salt of the earth. And I'm proud to be affiliated with you in the mission to keep the promise that all of us made 24 years ago, which was never to forget. But the challenge is there are a lot of people who are younger than us who don't know what to remember. In this museum, will fill that need to make sure people remember what happened on 9/11. Remembered the call to duty that 9/11 motivated and led to other sacrifices for this great nation and our democracy. So this museum is really got the biggest mission of all of our promises never to forget, to make sure that those that weren't around have something to remember that they will then never forget. Yes, there is a picture of me whispering into President Bush's ear on September 11th, 2001, in a classroom in Sarasota, Florida. I delivered a message that no one would want to have to deliver, and I guaranteed no president would not want to receive it. I know that that picture is an iconic picture. I am not iconic. But the fact is, that picture stands as a call for us to keep our promise never to forget. The sacrifices that were made by innocent people who just got in a plane, went to work in a building, showed up at the Pentagon, left their kids at the daycare center, and never saw them again. That iconic photograph should be a burden on you to remember what happened that day and explain it to the younger generation so that they too will recognize the great need to come together. The tragedy of 9/11 also proved to be a unity for America. It was just a matter of hours, not days, that American flags were being planted in almost every yard in America. I guarantee that the people of Peoria were among the first to put flags in their yard to say that they would stand up for this country. We have to remember those who answered the call to duty, the EMTs, the fire department, the police departments, those who decided to go into service for this country, those who joined the military, joined in public service, and made a difference. This museum is more than a museum. The museum will hold very special things for us to pay attention to that will cause us to remember. But more than that, this museum will be a place that keeps the promise that we all made. And it may be the only museum in the world that focuses on keeping that promise and keeping that memory alive so that we do remember. It is an honor to be here, a privilege to join my wife, who I met in the 5th grade. We were in the same classroom from the 6th grade on, and we've been married for 58 years. But to John Morris, thank you for the invitation. Ray LaHood, you were one of my heroes and were when you were in Congress, Secretary of Transportation, but his engagement with you is really special. And I have to give a shout out to his son, who is a remarkable member of Congress, and I actually pay attention to the work that he does and praise him. But most of all, I say, the people of Peoria, you're nicer than I expected you to be. And on the 9/11, when Air Force One flew over Peoria coming from Nebraska back to Washington, D.C., I learned that many of you were in your front yard lawns looking up and saluting that plane. And I got to witness the leader of that plane, George W. Bush, lead us during a time of great challenge, phenomenal challenge, but brought us together and united the world in a cause to defeat terrorism. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy Card. Andy received a text message this morning from President Bush wishing him well here in Peoria. And we appreciate you coming. And importantly, we appreciate the advice you have begun to give us and will give us as our special advisor as we move into the 25th recognition. So now I'd actually like to ask the fire chief if you would do the honors of carrying the wreath, and the Chan family, if you would join the fire chief as we lay a wreath, and if you join him down here, you all can follow in together. And you are welcome to stand and in silence as we remember all of the victims of 9/11, but especially our native son, Charles Chip Chan. We remember. And now for a special blessing, the Reverend Kathleen Card.
This is probably one of the most difficult blessings I've ever been asked to make. But it is so important that we tell the stories of the people who were so innocent and so brutally taken away. I have two scriptures that I thought of. The first one is Psalm 27:13. I shall see the goodness of God in the land of the living. And I think when you said that any place could be a church, I invite all of us to join in blessing this effort, thankful for the Chans sharing the stories of their son. From whatever faith tradition you honor. And I ask us to pray that the eternal light of Chip Chan and all of those who were taken will shine brightly through everyone that knew them and loved them. And that is the way that we can remember. It's more than a building coming down, it's the people in that building. And I want to end with the scripture from Micah 6:8, asking, what does the Lord ask of us? But to act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. So let this be a time of recognizing how horrible the loss was and doing everything to let the eternal light shine, that we might all care deeply for each other as a congregation of people who are not all the same, but who have the same goal. We pray this prayer from whatever faith tradition we attend. Amen.
Thank you, Kathleen. You may be seated for one final part of this program as we listen to the trumpeter play a beautiful piece. Let's all reflect on those lost and on the living, and our obligation here in our community to hold up these stories, to be the light to the future. 40% of America's population is not old enough or was not born yet to remember the acts of 9/11 as a real life thing. 40% Ladies and gentlemen, we must remember and will remember.